Brooke has admitted that Michael Jackson asked her to marry him more than once. Here's why they didn't. Brooke Shields, a well-known actor on stage and screen, began her work as a model when she was very young. Shields' mother was a model and her father worked for Revlon as an executive. You could say that she was born with glitz and fame in her blood. Brooke worked in the fashion business right in front of the camera before she was even a year old. She became an actress as she grew up and also got a degree from one of the Ivy League schools. Now that she's an adult, she said it was a big mistake to be quite open about my virginity because it never left me alone from a young age. I became the most famous virgin in the world, she said. Being in the line of fire at such a young age in that way made me stronger and ready for anything in this industry, which can be hard, she said. Even famous people admired her. It's no surprise that Brooke ends up on someone's wall or in someone's locker when that wall belongs to Michael Jackson, one of the greatest pop stars of all time. Jackson said that Brooke was one of the loves of my life and that her pictures were all over my wall, my mirror, everything. I went to the Academy Awards, MJ remembered, and this girl walks up to me and says, "Hi, I'm Brooke Shields, and you?" You want to marry a king. Michael Jackson said, "I think she loved me as much as I loved her." This makes it sound like he and Brooke had a great time together. It was great, he added. Brooke has said that he asked her to marry him more than once. It sounded like MJ wanted to adopt a child with Brooke, which shows how much he loved her. Brooke thought it was funny, though, and laughed off the proposals while thinking about children. A lot of tears at the Jackson Memorial. Even though Brooke and the King of Pop weren't close anymore, she still spoke at his memorial and talked about all the good times they had together. The media said her performance was fake because she was crying too much and showing too much emotion, but her feelings were real. Thinking back to when we met and the many times that we spent together, there would be a caption of some kind, which would usually say something like an odd couple. The stories they told. Brooke talked about her time with Michael Jackson in a moving eulogy. She said that she and Jackson often got in trouble together. One memory she shared was of the time she was his date to Elizabeth Taylor's wedding. Before the ceremony started, they broke away from the rest of the group and went looking around the house. They wanted to get a sneak peek at the bride-to-be's dress for the big day, so they crept into Taylor's room. How did they feel about each other? Jackson, for his part, told Oprah in 1993 that he and Brooke were dating, but Brooke didn't seem to agree. She said she wasn't really in love with him, which is a big reason why people were confused by her speech at Jackson's memorial. Gail Collins wrote in the New York Times, "It was a little strange hearing Brooke Shields' teary testimony about her deep friendship with Jackson, given that fact." Getting people to live healthier lives. Aside from her personal life, Brooke found a way to promote a healthy lifestyle. She was the it girl and everyone was looking at her. The 1990s were a time of health awareness, especially when it came to fitness. Brooke found a way to show that women could be fit without giving up their femininity. Brooke was in a great position to promote female athleticism and style. Magazines like Health and Fitness gave her a way to talk about her diet. How to look good on a date. Brooke was known as a serial dater, someone who went on a lot of dates. She was romantically linked to actors like Liam Neeson and singers like Michael Bolton. But after a while, she wanted to settle down for good. In 1993, Brooke met tennis star Andre Agassi. While her other relationships came and went quickly, Andre stayed with her long enough that they got married in 1997. It looked like Brooke was real. Brooke's mom didn't agree with it. Although you might think that Brooke's mother, Terry, would be happy for her daughter and Andre to get married, she wasn't. Terry was against them being together, which led to heated arguments between Brooke and her mother. Fighting got so bad that Brooke finally fired Terry from her managing job. Terry had been Brooke's manager for over 30 years, but the problems in Brooke's marriage weren't because of Terry's interference. It's time for something new. As a child, Brooke had been modeling. She'd also been in a few movies, but she didn't feel like they'd fully broken into the acting scene. She wanted to give it a real chance and show something people might not have seen in her before. The chance came in the form of a role on the TV show Suddenly Susan. The TV world was a breath of fresh air for her. The show was a huge hit, and she was thrilled to be nominated for 2 Golden Globes during its run. Angry about some fur. Fans of Brooke knows that she fights hard for animal rights groups and is an ardent vegan. That's why they were all shocked when Copenhagen Fur made a mink fur coat with her name on it. Brooke spoke out against the fur industry in 1989, so the news was a huge letdown for animal rights activists everywhere. It caused a huge scandal and media uproar, and groups like PETA started looking into the star's work. The word is Brooke. Once Brooke was done with TV, she went to the Broadway stage. This was a big change for her because she'd spent almost her whole life in front of a camera. But the audience loved all of her roles, and she wowed New York theatergoers in Grease, Cabaret, Wonderful Town, Chicago, and the Addams Family. In 2011, she played Morticia Addams in The Last Show, which was her last appearance in a Broadway show. When you least expect it, love. Brooke had pretty much given up on finding love, but a friend wanted to set her up with someone, so she did. That's when she met writer and film producer Chris Henchy. Sometimes things just work out, and for Brooke and Chris, they did. After 8 months together, they got married. Since Brooke already had a big wedding when she married Andre, Brooke and Chris decided to surprise their closest friends and family with a dinner on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of California. When the guests arrived, they were shocked to find out that they were being invited to a wedding. It was a small but meaningful ceremony and celebration for the couple. No one else knew about their marriage because it was a surprise, so it didn't get all the attention of a celebrity wedding. She looked up to her dad. Given that his daughter was famous and his ex-wife was involved in her career, Brooke's father wasn't talked about as much as the rest of the family. Brooke looked up to her father as a businessman and a person. When her father died, Brooke went on the TV show Who Do You Think You Are and talked about her grief. The death of a father and the birth of a child. Brooke couldn't do anything but watch as her father's health got worse. His family had hoped he would live to see his grandchild born, but that didn't happen. 3 weeks after his death, on May 15, 2003, Brooke gave birth to her first child. The death of Brooke's father affected the whole family, and even the birth of Brooke's daughter, Rowan Henchy, couldn't make things better. Brooke fell into a deep depression. Heartfelt apology from Tom Cruise. When the Times article came out, Tom Cruise is said to have privately apologized to Brooke. When the media heard about the apology, they were waiting to see what Brooke would say in response. When asked about it, Brooke said that the apology she received was heartfelt. 3 months after the incident, Brooke and Chris were seen at the wedding of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, which brought up the question of what Brooke had to say about it. A return to TV that didn't go well. Brooke went back to acting after her second daughter, Greer, was born in 2006. She wanted to get a role on network TV like she did in Suddenly Susan. She was cast as Wendy on the show Lipstick Jungle, which was written by Candace Bushnell and based on the hugely popular show Sex and the City. Sadly, the show didn't become a huge hit. The death of her mom. Brooke lost another important person in her life when her mother Terry died in 2012. Terry was a mother and Brooke's manager from a young age, so she was a very important person in her life. It was a hard loss for Brooke because she and her mother had a complicated relationship, and many questions would never be answered about things like having Brooke pose for a Playboy photographer when she was 10. A little girl lived there. Brooke wrote a memoir about her difficult childhood and relationship with her mother. The memoir was called There Was a Little Girl, and it came out in 2014. Terry wanted Brooke to be famous when she was only 5 days old. She was the most beautiful child, Terry reportedly said, and I'm going to help her with her career. Terry has spoken out about her plans to raise her daughter in show business. That choice, made when Brooke was only a week old, has affected her whole life. Kid with a crush. Rinaldi was caught in the end and charged with following Brooke around. He told the judge that he'd been watching her for over 30 years because he had a crush on her as a kid. He says that his feelings started as a normal for a kid with a crush. But since they started when he was 12, they've grown into an obsession. In his words, Brooke was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in the world. He promised to get close to her in any way possible. 4 counts of stalking, which is a misdemeanor. John Rinaldi, who is 49 years old, was found guilty on 4 counts of stalking in New York in June 2016. In his defense, Rinaldi said that Brooke had lied about him and that he wasn't scary at all, just someone with strong feelings. The judge put him in the notorious Rikers Island jail in New York City for 30 days. During the trial, Rinaldi also talked about his friendship with Terry and said, "She saved my life." Terry wasn't there to help, but the court had no trouble seeing Rinaldi for what he was, a stalker. In the end, Rinaldi only served 28 days of his 60-day term. Her big 50th birthday was the best. You made headlines when you're 21 by being on the cover of Playboy. For your 50th birthday, you need to do something just as memorable. People who are close to Brooke, like family and close friends, were asked to the party at Refinery Rooftop in New York City. Though the party was a lot of fun, it made people feel things. Chris, Brooke's husband, gave a moving speech about how beautiful his wife was, both on the outside and on the inside. There were swing dancers hired for the party who added to the happy, light mood created by the fancy drinks. How a lifelong model stays beautiful. Brooke is known for one thing, keeping up her good looks. She's in her 50s and still does something she learned almost from birth. Both men and women have been amazed at how clean and calm she always looks and have asked her what her secret is. Fans were shocked when they learned one secret about how she takes care of her looks. "I don't wax," she said in an interview. Of course, she was talking about her brows. "I might pluck a stray hair, or if a makeup artist sees one they need to get to, I'll let them, but I don't do too much." She had surgery on her foot, which took her out. It was too much for the model and actor to handle being on her feet all the time. Brooke had been in unbearable pain because of a hammer toe, and something had to be done. She cleared her schedule for 2 months in 2008 so she could have surgery. "Just walking hurts," she said, "and at work I have to wear high heels all the time." The star was seen on crutches once she healed, but she was soon back on her feet. What happened with Brooke and MJ? Lots of people in Hollywood and the music business hoped that Brooke and Michael were dating. There were reports that the two unusual friends were getting together. There was a link between them that fans may not have realized what it was. As kids, both Brooke and Michael had parents who were very strict and sometimes cruel. This made it easy for them to become friends. They got a lot of comfort from each other, but things got bad between the two friends after 11 years when Brooke was quoted in a Rolling Stone story calling Michael asexual. Brooke and her high school sweetheart. Brooke Shields and Dean Cain met in college and got along great. Dean has said, "I was in love with her for sure. We were college sweethearts." Brooke writes about their relationship in her book, There Was a Little Girl, The Real Story of My Mother and Me. You can read about Brooke's family values of abstinence in that book. She carried that value with her into her own life, even though she played questionable parts and posed for racy photos. She also talks about her first night with her boyfriend at the time, who is also an actor. Brooke Shields can't be stopped. Brooke has worked pretty regularly and is still working. She played the important friend Rita in the hit comedy The Middle, which you may have seen her in. You may have also heard her voice in the comic Mr. Pickles as Mr. Goodman. In 2014, she was on the Michael J. Fox show as well, but the one that stood out was on Michael Bolton's Big Sexy Valentine's Day special in 2017. Is there any question that Brooke Shields will continue to amaze us on TV and in real life for many years to come?